Dr. Rakesh, distinguished dignitaries on the dais, and very eminent position holders in the HR profession. I've met many of them earlier and hold them in very high esteem. Distinguished faculty members of this great institution, participants, and dear students. First of all, I am feeling honored to be invited by IMS and especially Dr. Rakesh, who is a good friend, to speak to you about this subject which I hold very dear. I'll be talking, I thought of three things, but probably time constraint will be there, and maybe I don't go to a model. There's a model of transformational leadership. I was told 20 minutes. Is that okay? Or okay, so these are the three things I initially thought that I'll speak to you. That what is critical today in succeeding in contemporary business realities, if you want to defeat your competitors, which is ethical, acceptable, what is it? What is that new reality? And secondly, what some of the great leaders are doing globally to confront these realities. And lastly, I thought that I'll talk about transformational leadership, but I doubt if I'll have time for that. Anyway, I think I'll be happy if I'm able to focus on those. This is how the world looked earlier on, before we enter into this era of chaos, complete chaos, in terms of people, products, businesses, talent, policies, networks amongst countries. Before that, it was a very stable, calm environment. And as you are aware that most of those who were winners in that environment have withered away today. That speaks of the incidence of the chaos which has set in today. This is how the business environment appears today. And this is how, I'm not frightening you, the students, that you are going to manage this chaos, but to explain to you that this is the reality. Everybody cannot survive. There are 100 people, 95 have to die. If only 5 survive, the best ones survive, because everybody is not able to confront the chaos. And those who can't, they run away, like the duck runs away with her ducklings when she feels the heat of the chaos, the storm. And so many groups have died, people don't even know their names. And today, therefore, this is the kind of situation which prevails in industry. When you go to manage, especially your leadership, because they have to confront competition. The question is, what is critical to fight this chaos? What need businesses to do? The first and foremost is, of course, without doubt, is strategy. What is your strategy? You are carving out your strategy and implementing your strategy. Most difficult is implementing. And I was reading a book by Harvard Professor Ram Charan, and he said in the last 5 years, 40%, something like 40% of the CEOs, of the total number of CEOs of Fortune 500, he says, have been dismissed because they could not implement the strategy. And there comes the issue of leadership, which we are debating today, and even making. You see, I was reading literature. Complex problem solving is one of the key things which corporates are looking in you people, the prospective managers. Are you able to solve complex problems? And therefore the need for thorough knowledge rather than perfunctory understanding of things because you have to contribute to strategy making and eventually strategy planning. So that is which is the way you are taking, where are you going, that is your strategy. Then you have change leadership. So much of M&A is happening, and I've read several papers. Almost there is a consensus that 70% of these M&As fail, and they fail because of the poor people management job. Best people leave and the deadwood remains, and leadership is very crucial, and this is a challenge for every leader. Like innovation is the mantra today. Innovation not just in products, not just in technology, even the ways of managing, even in people management, new technology is coming, how you manage. This Gen Y is very different, and you need innovations for managing Gen Y, so HR innovation also. So that is another issue which is very critical for business success. Talent. You are all gold-collared workers. I don't know how many of you have heard about gold-collared workers. You know, blue-collar and white-collar, but no one. Anybody who knows gold-collared worker? A gold-collared worker is one, first of all, knowledge worker with a lot of idiosyncrasies. Wants to come in knicker at 12 o'clock without shaving, with wearing his chappal and tie, with his dog sometimes, does not respect authority, respects merit though, wants to work till 12 o'clock. These are the idiosyncrasies of the new worker. And therefore, the contemporary leadership paradigm has to respond to the exigencies of these gold-collar workers. They are nearly 50% now in the Western world, and how do you recruit them, engage them, retain them is very crucial, and the average time is now less than 1.5 years for gold-collar workers to be retained by a company. So that is another very big challenge. And talented people. Speed. If your speed is slower than the speed with which the environment is changing, you are out of business. Somebody else will bring the product because their lead time is lower than yours and you are out. So that is again a very crucial thing. And then you know you are Gen Y, you are all Gen Y people, you are very different. Peter Senge says somewhere, if you have heard this name, experience can be your bloody enemy, because you tend to replicate your experience and don't know that the context has changed. I've written a case on this Maruti murder, and the management became arrogant over the years, the largest market share, and they defeated workers' unions in 2000. They practiced their experienced model, and it resulted into murder. For 1 month, factory was closed. There is no contract labor. Several billion dollars of loss for the company because of the experience. Gen Y, you cannot practice what you have experienced 10 years, 20 years before. You have to respond to what this generation wants. I have a lot of people from my generation, and they're talking all sorts of names for this generation. Even Plato said in BC that this present generation is very indisciplined. We all, we all think because they are different from us. But do you know that? Do you know the market cap of Google? It is $800 billion, which is something like 6 lakh crore rupees. It is more than the 70 lowest GDP combined in the world, 70 countries. And who are they? They are all Gen Y workers. This is a fit case for understanding what the leadership model for Gen Y has to be, and we have to not to accept just because it is written, the earlier research is said so. So you have to see that what Gen Y wants. Now, for example, if you go to a municipal corporation or a DDA or a government department, you know nothing works over there. People coming at 11 o'clock and no accountability, you are disgusted. And the way public systems work, people have to work very little, whatever, just to show that some work is going on. If a good manager, hard taskmaster, what we call in research, instrumentalist model comes, then he can take some people to task, he can create some semblance of fear, and then people say, I have to work to survive. That is a manager, it's not a leader. He will do. What can a leader do? Where from within you want to work. You enjoy working. It gives you meaning of life. People say, oh, it's all written in books, it's not possible. But I say it is possible, and I'm going to show you some of the models practiced by some of the great leaders who are practicing and confronting these contemporary business realities. So, the question today which you are debating in this one-day seminar is how do you transform an organization through leadership, and how do you build that leadership? It's a very, very controversial subject, highly controversial subject, lot of theories, okay, but I don't know if you people know the most modern theory is transformational leadership theory, okay, and which is a lot of research globally and also a lot of organizations also following. Let me see if time permits and I can come to that. The first thing I want to say is that leaders build intangibles. What are these intangibles? If you see Dabur and let us say Dalmia Cement about 5 years ago, they both had the same market cap in the balance sheet. They had the both same value assets in the balance sheet. But the market cap difference was 100 times. Dabur 1 rupee share was selling at 65 rupees and Dalmia Cement 1 rupee share was selling below par at 67 paise. Balance sheet showed the same amount of assets. What is it which has made this difference? There is a Professor Baruch Lev from New York University, very eminent, and he did a research and he found that great organizations build intangibles. What are these intangibles? This is Baruch Lev and his thesis. I don't know if in finance courses it is taught. And their intangibles are not reflected in the current earnings of the organization. You are building the solidity of the organization through these intangibles. And what are these intangibles? Baruch Lev says there are 3 types of intangibles which leaders build, which great organizations build. The first is discovery intangibles, which in some we say patent, trademark, your R&D program today, and then how you are perceived by your stakeholders to be an innovative organization. Organizational intangibles. What is your business model? How are customers feeling about your service? What are your brands? Are they reliable? Do you maintain your brand? That is, he calls it organizational intangibles. And then we have HR intangibles, which is culture, talent, speed, collaboration, accountability. It is this. Therefore, whenever you invest in a company, do look for the capability of that organization to build and sustain intangibles. It is they which make this difference, 100 times difference between one company and the other company. And great leaders always focus on building of these intangibles. For great leaders, their heart bleeds for their people. You know, the only industrialist who has ever got a Bharat Ratna in India is J.R.D. Tata. And I'm a fan of J.R.D. Tata more than anybody else. I hold him very high esteem because I've reviewed books and read about him. After 48 years, he laid down the office of chairman and made a non-Tata family person, Rusi Modi, a chairman of Tata Steel. And it's a very transparent organization. I was invited by Tata Steel 2006 to speak to all their HR. I was just flabbergasted the kind of business model they have. I stayed there for 3 days to write a case on it, and I became a fan of this house, the way they manage things. And in that process, I came across a story. And it was that when J.R.D. Tata was not the chairman, but he was the head of the Tata family, Electricity was a terrible problem in Jamshedpur. And Jamshedpur is known to be one of the best towns for academics, especially for schools. And I'm told that IIT admissions are maximum from there. The workers wrote, living in Tata colony, wrote to J.R.D. Tata, what is happening? We can't sleep, it is so hot and there is no electricity during the day. And they are not the ones who will sleep over these memoranda. He took it to the board and he told Rusi Modi this, Mr. Chairman, tell me what is happening in Jamshedpur. My people and children are boiling, children cannot study, people cannot sleep. I have received hundreds of letters and telephones. Is the house of Tata so helpless? I want your board to discuss and find a solution before we take up any other item for discussion. What does this statement show you? Leaders always love their people, they care for their people, their heart bleed for their people, they build trust for their people. Similar are the stories which I came across. Dorabji Tata, he did not cheat his workers when there were Great Depressions, 1933. Tata Steel was on the brink of sale, and he sold his wife's jewelry to pay off the wages of workers, which he was not. You know the famous Salomon versus Salomon and Company case. The company is different and individuals are not liable, but he had a different notion of liability, and that is how you build. Last year I was teaching a course in IIM Lucknow, and one student asked me, sir, why is it that if Tatas are so great, why is it other companies are not able to become Tatas? I was touched by this question and I'll never forget it. So simple but so difficult. Why? Because there is this element of genuineness. How many of leaders' heart bleed for their people? Because you are inculcating a faith, inculcating a trust in your employees and in your customers by having that kind of model. So that is another thing that great leaders do this, they care for their people. I don't know if you have heard about a book, In Search of Excellence, came in 1982, two McKinsey guys, and they said that they were told to say as to how is the business model different today than yesterday. And the thesis was that this book is the most famous book in management, all subjects included, 1 crore copies sold. And they said that today the management paradigm is moving from systems to processes and from strategy structure systems to people. And great companies are focusing on people. And when was that? 38 years ago. It has yet to reach in great part of our country, okay. We are still instrumentalists, hard, we are harsh with our people, but if you want to become Tata, if somebody, as my answer to that student of mine is that, can you be trusted by your people? Does your heart bleed for your people? That's another thing. I'm sorry, I think I'll have to rush and I won't go to my third. You know Richard Branson, he follows this. Staff first, customer second, stakeholders third. I was invited in San Diego as 2011 where Vineet Nair, if you have heard this name, he was also an invitee. And when he spoke there were 5,000 Americans to clap for him. And he wrote this book, Employee First, Customer Second. And I think overnight his package from 3 crore to became 8 crore. And he has now so much money that he's become a sannyasi now and he's doing all social service. And this book was published from Harvard Business School, and it is the same model which Richard Branson follows, that employee first, customer second. So great leaders, this is another thing great leaders are doing today. And as Branson says, if your customer is happy, and then if employee is happy, the customers will be happy, and then stakeholders will be happy. And so says Vineet Nair, and he turned around this HCL, as you all know. This is about care, respect, learning, growth. This is about Southwest Airlines. You might have read some of these cases. And only airline in the world which has never suffered a loss in 40 plus odd years. Cheapest, its cost is 20% lower than its competitors. What does it do? Staff first, okay, customers, sorry. They create for their employees stable environment, opportunity for learning, personal growth, creativity and innovation, and that's the reason why it's such a great company. And what comes to your mind when you see this? Can anybody think from which company is this picture? Google. Who is the most powerful person? Probably you will say this or this.
Larry Page.
This is not Larry Page. Larry Page is the most bichara. He looks very bichara. This is the way he is sitting. He is the owner of the 70 lakh crore rupees. 70 lakh crore rupees. And what comes to your mind when you see this kind of a picture? Humility, empowerment, involvement. We normally don't involve. Rosabeth Kanter, I'll just take 2 more minutes. Rosabeth Kanter, a Harvard professor, writes in her book that there was a problem in a famous textile mills, and the thread will break, and then it will millions of dollars of losses, and company was not able to find what to do. One worker, the new CEO comes and he tells that I believe in feedback and please come and let me know what we can do. One worker goes and he says, I have the solution, and I'm glad that you are very receptive. And so surprisingly it worked, and you saved millions of dollars for the company. And the CEO asked, since when you had this idea? He said, 32 years. 32 years, what a colossal waste of talent in this organization. We don't involve people. We don't empower people. We are autocrats. We don't listen to others. A lot of managers do this, okay? Though this is giving way to now empowerment, involvement. In fact, in Europe they said empowerment is the elixir of 1990s. 1990 they started empowerment, and they said elixir, is Amrit. You can't buy it in the market. That it became Amrit for companies, and this is what empowerment can do. And this is the business model of. This is leaders create fun. This is Richard Branson. So that positivity in the organization, a light sense, sort of lightness in the organization. Our own Pitroda, his hallmark, I've heard him 2-3 times and highly impressed. A carpenter's son and his pinnacle of success. And I was once traveling in a bus in US, and there was an IM guy sitting next to me, and he told me, do you know that the Indian telecom is far better than the US telecom? I didn't know, I am not a technical person. And thanks to Sam Pitroda. And what is the hallmark of Sam Pitroda? Passion. This amazing passion. And I would have told you a story, but there is no time about passion, but I will tell the students here that whatever you are good at, try to focus, practice and focus passionately on this. This will pay you. Leaders are readers, they are teachers, and they build learning organization. There is a Heathrow management theory which says that today's managers are reading and applying that knowledge. They are readers, they are teachers, they are mentors, okay? And they tell stories, success stories and stories from great organizations, and they build learning organizations. Learning organizations are very few. They are continuously expanding to create their future. This is what leaders do. I will stop here because I'm sorry I've exceeded my time, maybe by 5 minutes. What I've said is that we cannot do today's knowledge. We must first and foremost try to understand the context in which your business operates, how you strategize and how it operates. That context needs to be understood. Try to understand what are the critical success factors and try to respond to them. And today, globally, businesses are using transformational leadership, something which I couldn't do because of paucity of time. There is a model, and which is research. Probably the maximum research is coming on leadership on that model, and maximum number of organizations are practicing that model. So try to build transformational leadership if you want to turn around your organization. Thank you.